Yo, what is good? Week 2 of the NFL season. We're here with me and Matt. Fancy was here earlier. We had some technical difficulties, so it's just me and Matt today. Matt, how we feeling?
What's going on? Pretty good.
Got that first week of football in. Um, some disappointed fantasy football owners. Some disappointed owners and football fans. I mean, there's a lot of disappointment going around.
Right.
Um, Lots to talk about. We'll obviously get into our picks. We'll obviously get into our DK stuff and our 3 leg parlay and all that other good stuff. But um, I mean, when you look back at it, the one thing that I wanted to point out for me was just the poor quarterback play across the entire league. I mean, not only just the rookies. I mean, Caleb Williams. I mean, when your punter kicks 3 times the yardage that you threw for, um,
Got to win
and you
somehow.
still win, and then he still did the Bears like that. I just it kills me. Bo Nix didn't look that good, but I will say I did like Jaden Daniels' performance. We'll get more into that later with the DK
Right.
stuff. But I did like his performance. Other than that, I'm just glad that football is back. It was nice watching football Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We had some college games. Sunday, it was just like it's finally it's finally
Yeah.
back and it's finally
Week 1 in the
here.
books.
Yep, exactly. And if you guys did tail our 3 leg parlay last week, I let you guys down. Matt's Derrick Henry hits. Fancy's -$3, cleared by a long shot. But Dalton Kincaid did not get me over the hump there. So I'll own up to that one, and hopefully this week I can check one off for you guys. Um, but to get things started, we have to start out with the Eagles win, of course. I don't know about you, Matt, but I think Fancy purposely didn't show it.
Yep.
The
Can't
Eagles.
show his face after Green
Yeah,
Bay.
yeah, exactly. No, that's not at all the case. But I know he'd love to talk about it because there was some sloppy football on both ends. Honestly, there was. I mean, the Eagles threw a pick in our own end, we fumbled in our own end, and our defense. I mean, everyone's trashing our defense, which we didn't look great. We let up some big plays, but when you turn the football over in your own end twice in the first quarter and you only let up 2 field goals, I personally think that's what won us the game. I talked to a lot of people about it, and I mean, without those defensive stops, we always said bend but don't break. I mean, early on, you can go down 14-0. And 6-0, 6-0 versus 14-0 is a really big difference, especially when it comes down to the wire like it did. But very happy to see Barkley. I'm sure you're very happy as a fantasy owner with Hurts and AJ Brown.
Yeah,
Um,
hey, I was not a jinx. I did not I
yeah,
did not
I
turn
saw.
the
Yeah, I
Eagles.
saw him go over that 100 yard marker. Because last year you're the one that jinxed it when you finally
Yep.
took him, and I was like, this dude's gonna have a great year. Um, but obviously, all joking aside, I do hope that Jordan Love is okay. A lot of us, a lot of people have thought that he was gonna have an MVP season, and supposedly he's not ruled out this week. Supposedly it's still a day-to-day thing, is what I've been told.
Okay.
He's around practice. He missed practice yesterday, but they still haven't officially ruled him out yet. I don't see how you can play. I think you need a week or 2 off at least minimum. So it's a weird thing.
I don't think they're gonna rush it too. I
Yeah,
mean,
and as
it's
a fantasy owner, it sucks because he's just sitting in your bench on doubtful when you could pick somebody else up. You know what I mean? I'm missing all these guys on
yeah.
waiver, and I just have them on my bench as doubtful. But in all seriousness, from an Eagles fan, I do hope that Jordan Love is okay because we were very excited to see what that team could do. Not only fancy, but I know me and you were too, especially with that young receiving core. Who I mean, Jaden Reed and all of them had great games.
And
Um,
Fancy and I were kind of talking about that in our pre-production is um obviously we hope he's okay next couple weeks, right? But that really does shake up NFC North
yep.
because we thought it was going to be a absolute shootout between Lions and Packers at 1 and 2, and if they can't get it together in these first 4 weeks, what are they
Yeah.
going to do?
Yeah, we saw last year with the Vikings where they couldn't get it together, and by the time they slipped too far, and
Right.
at the end of the season they just came up short. You know what I mean? So the first couple of weeks really do matter. Obviously Malik Willis will be starting if Jordan Love can't go this Sunday. So we'll see what happens, but I think that changes the whole dynamic, and I think the Packers are playing the Colts, who I mean that's not a that's another game I wanted to dive into is how good Richardson looked for coming off an injury. I mean, you saw some of those bombs that he threw. I think he connected
He
for.
chucked that thing 60
Yep,
yards
I remember we were literally
downfield.
watching on a red zone, and we were watching it live, and he like slipped, and I was like, no, like, and then he literally just launched. I was like, Oh my goodness. Like
Right.
it felt like he threw the ball like 80 yards. I mean, they said it was 63 or 62 and a half or something like that, which is like the third longest throw ever recorded, completion wise. Uh, which is just crazy. So the kid's got a cannon. Definitely could clean up some stuff. He definitely overthrew a lot of people. But I think, I was the only person that took the Colts in that game. Obviously, they didn't come away with it. But to come that close to a team, I think we can see them have a similar year to what the Texans had last year in terms of maybe making that playoff peak at the end of the season,
Right.
win a playoff game, depending on how he can stay healthy or not. So a tough matchup for the Packers to lose a quarterback and then have to play another really young, team that is very promising in the near future. And then Sunday night, the Lions get it done.
Absolutely. What a game.
Some people said that if Puka didn't go down, you guys would have lost, but maybe not. I don't know.
No, I mean, in true form, Matthew Stafford, he just spread it around. He's chucking the ball to, um, you know, two kind of unknown receivers, right? Finds his tight end Parkinson. Um, I swear it's got to be a record of how many throws he threw to Cup. Leading the receptions for week one.
Yeah,
Um, you
tied his
saw
career tied his career high too.
Yeah. So you saw that, I mean, that's what we expected from that side of the ball. Um, and then what I really got out of the game was how the Lions really brought it together in the fourth. That last drive to kick the field goal to tie it up. Really had an opportunity to probably win the game there, but good to just tie it up, send it overtime. I think the deciding factor was that coin toss. I think if we lose that coin toss, Matthew Stafford's going to do the exact same thing to us. He's going to drive down the field and score a touchdown to win the game. But you know what? Flip of the coin, we
Yeah.
won it. And it was really interesting to see the dynamic between, Gibbs was the one that was having those explosive runs during the game. Montgomery put the team on his back,
Yep.
and absolutely ran through that defense, pretty much single-handedly, just walked down the field,
Yeah.
and then obviously, pounded it in for the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah. It was like a flip switch of just like it's workhorse time. You know what I mean? Like get in there, put your head down, and don't stop. You know what I mean? And that's
Yep.
what it felt like. I just checked to see 21 targets by the way for Cup in that game.
That's
21.
insane.
So some quarterbacks didn't. I don't even think it might be a stat to look out for, but I don't think some quarterbacks even threw the ball 21 times in their game. So the fact that Cooper Cup got that much, so fantasy owners, you're probably smiling and grinning like I am because
Yeah.
I drafted him. So definitely
Last
going to look good in the future.
last takeaway from that game, though, for me was Jameson Williams.
Yep.
We've talked about it before, how he's got that potential. I know you ended up grabbing him in our league, right? So
You want him?
sell high
AJ
right now.
Brown.
Hey, sell high if you really want to, guys, because
Yeah.
you saw what they can do with him.
Yeah. He's explosive.
I loved how they utilized him. What happened, but that you saw though, is Amon-Ra got the lowered production part of that. So the give and take of that, I think they might balance that out as we go through these weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's the tricky part of the game though of like you don't know what to expect. You don't know who, you know what I mean? Like you can look at last year footage all you want, but when guys, I mean, teams change so much. And I saw so many Eagles fans, not to deflect to a different game, but one of our linebackers, Zach Bond, is leading the league in tackle. This guy, he was everywhere, and everyone's messaging. Like I had so many people messaging me like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like, so it's like, where did he come from? Where, like, I didn't even know, you know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where when you're offensive coordinator, guys are at different spots. You don't know what they're trying to do to you. And the Lions didn't lose a lot offensively, right? You still have St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery, Laporta. It's like you kind of have the identity. So some teams are able to book it around that a little bit better. Where defensively, you're like, okay, where are they going to put this guy at? Where are they going to put this guy at? And so I think Goff had a lower game overall. They didn't really use Laporta that much or St. Brown. So
Right.
I think you can almost play the dual-edged sword in that situation of like those guys weren't involved and Williams still was. You know what I mean? And so there must be some kind of comfort level of, hey, if these guys can't get going, I'm coming to you. And then when those guys are going, he might be wide open now, because St. Brown, you can't, you can't just. And I will say, I know Fancy would have loved to be here because I love the fact that Dan Campbell played it safe the whole game. I mean, and you
I want to say
saw
one
that.
fourth down. I want to say one fourth
And
down.
and
It
and
was like
and
fourth and two.
every team went for it, but there were
Yeah.
situations where you could have went for it instead of a field goal. Like you definitely could have, and he didn't, and you guys won the game. And I think that
Yep.
I mean, yes, you could have scored a touchdown in those situations, but the other side of it, we saw the other side of it last year, right? So with that, it's like that is the maturity, that is belief in the rookie kicker, or I mean, well, isn't he an XFL kicker or something? Like you guys came from the XFL, or is he a rookie kicker?
UFL,
Yeah,
Michigan Panthers.
whatever it is, right? So he has experience, but I mean that's faith in a guy, which goes a long way throughout the season. And shout out to Amon St. Brown too for swatting down the interception there too. I don't
Yeah,
know if you saw that, but on the
best play.
podcast he said it, he slipped and he was like, "Oh shit," and then he just swatted the ball down, and the guy said like, "You smart motherfucker." That's what he would have said
Yeah,
to him.
best play of the
So
game from him was a defensive play because
yep,
that changes the game by him letting that sneak through and get an
yeah.
interception. So
Yep. And you don't see a lot of that too. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very consistent player. So look for him this year to really, or this week to have a bounce back week for sure. Um, that'll put us right into the matchups where so the way we do this is we have everyone send picks, and before you guys send picks, I make sure my picks are already in. That way it's not influenced by your guys and stuff like that. That's just the honesty type thing that we do. And then we make the graphic. And believe it or not, it's just me and Matt obviously here on the pod this week, and we picked every single game the exact same. So last week, with the total about that with the totals, Fancy of course with the long shots. He has to go his long shots went 9-7. That's kind of right around where Fancy lies
that's pretty
most of
good.
the
Yeah,
season. Yeah,
it's not
and
even.
for as many times as we're about to dive into here that he goes with some of the underdogs, that 9-7 record is not bad. So you see Matt with 12-4 and me with 11-5. That's pretty much not even to brag. That's pretty much where me and you kind of sit most weeks too, unless something really goes wrong. Obviously, two of
Yep.
those losses were the Bengals, the Falcons, who were heavily favored in those matchups, and
Yeah,
then
I feel like
obviously we took the
most.
Ravens. So that's
Yeah,
three right there. And so, but to dive right into it, all of us took the Dolphins tonight. We also just found out that Josh Allen's 6-0 on Thursday Night Football, so that's great to know after we just did that.
yep.
We got the
So
Dolphin blue in the background. So we're all in the Dolphins thing. It's early. It might rain tonight, they said. We'll see. Um,
listen, for close matchups, which we assume divisional game, Thursday night, prime time, I typically, if the home team gets that little, that slight edge, right? So I don't think this is a runaway by any means. I think this is hopefully going to be a great game,
yeah.
but I'm going to give the edge to, the team that I have winning the division.
Yep.
So you're going to have to do it here first
Yeah.
on Thursday
Show
night.
us what you got. That's pretty much that was my
Yep.
exact thought process of it too. Is hey, you had a slow start against the Jags last week. Now it's time to come out and play. They got it moving a little bit. They were down. We saw another Jags. I mean, we saw them go 8-1 last year. I keep saying it. We saw them go 8-1 last year, and then just fall short of everything they could have done. And then kind of the same thing. I think they went up 14-0 in that game and kind of took their foot off the gas.
Yep.
So that was kind of like my mindset of it too. Was maybe Tyreek will get arrested on the way to the game again, and it'll boost him up, kind of like the Scotty Scheffler thing. You know what I mean? They both have great. I don't know. There's something about being
Yeah.
arrested, man. I don't know. So. But yeah, so all of us took Dolphins in that one, and then we all took the Ravens against the Raiders, which is kind of just like an obvious one. The Ravens obviously 0-1, but they did play the Chiefs, and they did play well. It'll be interesting to see. At home it is very, very. They play so well at home. I feel like, and they always have. We always talk about it. So I think the Raiders are. It's a tough start for them. To start off 0-2. And then same thing the next matchup. We got Jags Browns. Someone here is gonna have to start off 0-2. Obviously we can say that about a lot of these matchups, but that's the truth. And starting off 0-2, no team wants to do that. I mean,
Yep.
everyone's gonna say, yeah, no shit. But it's like, seriously, with the Browns and Jags, you're talking about those are playoff teams, right? I mean, no one can argue that they can't make playoffs in terms of what they have on the team. And you know, so it's kind of like just like no one's gonna be waiting for you. Now is the time to perform. But all of us took the Jags. I was very shocked by this just because, obviously the Jags did lose to the Dolphins, and I feel like both these teams lost to decent matchups. I mean, the Cowboys and Dolphins. You know, it's like they lost to playoff teams. It's not like they lost to anyone they shouldn't have.
Right.
But you
I
know,
mean,
I think
I wish I would have seen more of the games, but to me, just the way the Cowboys just absolutely ran over the Browns
yeah,
versus Jaguars looking good.
yeah, and
Um,
I would think what was it? Was it 17-14 or something like that? Yeah, it was a winning field goal for the Dolphins. So to keep the Dolphins offense to
right.
17 points, I mean, most teams
That's why I
would
really like the Jags here.
most teams would like that just in general. And I mean, Watson just looked terrible for the Browns. Um, the one shocker that I will say, I told you before we started recording, was Fancy not going with the Jets. I mean, Fancy went with the Jets against the 49ers, but he went with the
Here,
Titans over the Jets.
listen,
Is he doing the reverse jinx again?
this is exactly what he would say. He would say, "I'm doing it as a reverse jinx. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to ball out, but I'm doing this pick so that he'll win." That's exactly what he would have said.
Yeah. And I think, we kind of talked about the Caleb Williams thing, but I think Tennessee's defense, I told you guys last week, like, I think Tennessee is going to kind of be sneaky this year. Not in terms of play, like making playoffs, but I think they're going to beat a couple teams that they maybe people don't think they should. I mean, they had every right to win last week. They had there's no reason
Yes.
they shouldn't have. That
Yes.
Will Levis pick was awful. I don't know if you saw the video of it. It was all the meme of him on his knees.
The
Like,
surrender
it was
cobra, absolutely,
it
yeah.
was it was absolutely awful, and so they lost the game themselves. I mean, to lose to a team that didn't get an offensive point against you is crazy. So I mean, defensively, when you keep a quarterback to 90 yards, it's like that's what I said. They're going to be kind of sneaky. So we'll see.
Right.
And then we got 49ers Vikings. This one's kind of easy. Both teams want to know, but the 49ers, I mean, they look dominant against the Jets, and the Jets defense is 10 times better than the Vikings.
And
Even
who
without
would have thought
CMC,
yeah, who would have
even
thought
without
that plug
CMC,
and play.
that offense never skipped a beat.
Yep.
Which is shocking. But and then we have the Chargers Panthers. All of us took the Chargers. Obviously, the Panthers got smoked by the Saints last week. The Chargers defense is right now. Obviously, we're only 1 week in, so relax. But the Chargers defense is number 5 in fantasy at the moment. So they're playing the Panthers. So if you're kind of one of those people that run the waiver, on the defensive matchups, definitely look for the Chargers. I picked them up personally. And also Justin Herbert. I mean, it might be his game where he actually gets to throw the ball to Lad McConkey a little bit more.
Yep.
So
And then spoiler alert for my fantasy daily lineup. That's who I ended up picking up too. So
Lad McConkey.
no, the Chargers
Oh,
defense.
okay. Um, yeah, and then Seahawks Patriots. Obviously, none of us think the Patriots should have won that game, but hey, they're at home again. So if I'm Seattle, I'm kind of figuring out like what the hell happened in that game. That, you know what I mean? You're almost going into it like obviously no one thinks the Patriots are going to make the
Right.
playoffs, but they should not have won that game. So you're almost going into it like, fuck, we're going into their stadium where they just won. Or no, the Bengals were home, weren't they? I think the
Yeah.
Bengals were actually home. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, they went on the road and did it. So, but we're all going to take Seattle because that's obviously the right pick to make. It's obviously the favored pick. Cowboys Saints, same thing. Saints play the Panthers. Don't get ahead of yourself there.
I was gonna say how good did the Saints look, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, I mean, shout out. Me and you have always been decent fans of Derek Carr. We're not haters, but Fancy definitely did not like to see Derek Carr slinging the thing all over the field last week.
yep.
MVP Derek Carr. That's what's trending. So we'll see what happens because we saw what the Browns offense looked, and I don't think the Saints is going to look any better. Commanders Giants. This is a fun matchup that we'll actually probably dive into a couple times throughout the pod. But we all took the Commanders. Obviously, Giants looked awful. And then one of my favorite matchups of the week, to be honest with you, the Lions Bucks. I view them both as, obviously last year they both were in divisional playoff games. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. You guys are home again, which I think helps out a bunch. I sent you
Yep.
the Snapchat memory that me and you had going to the last game that went to 2 years ago, where it was Eagles Lions in Detroit, and that was the year that they actually had a lot of momentum going forward, and that place is definitely game changing. Even my brother said it. It's game changing in terms of
Yeah.
how loud it gets, and we saw it with Stafford as well last week. Struggle, and that's a veteran quarterback. So I'll be interested to see what Baker and the Bucks can do. But obviously, that's your matchup. So
Yeah, I
you
mean
can.
it's really cool to have that home field advantage all of a sudden. Whereas before you've got all these teams coming in, basically taking over the crowd, and that really changes the dynamic of that type of game where when you can be that loud and disrupt an offense, it really does, can pivot any part of the game. So I expect this. We saw Baker ball out last week. I fully expect that to happen again here. I think it's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be who can outlast the other team. And I really think, obviously we all picked the Lions here. I really think it's going to really be a, high scoring game that we're going to see lots of touchdowns and hopefully, a good turnout.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because you guys kind of have another schedule where it's like playoff team. You know what I mean? And it's like if you guys can go 2-0 and keep going, not only is that good in terms of like we talked about with the NFC North, it's not what we expected. Because you're going to see maybe the Packers go 0-2 here. You're going to see the Bears probably go 1-1 and the Vikings go 1-1. So you guys can start. I know it's early, so we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but you guys can start leading away a little bit in terms of
Yep.
that division. And it's gonna be interesting. I'm starting Baker this week in our league that we have over Kyler. He was on waivers. I picked him up last night, and I'm gonna I'm gonna start him just because I mean number two quarterback, right? I mean we have some graphics of the quarterback and tight ends that we posted, and I mean quarterbacks didn't play very well last week, and so
Right.
I'm gonna play the one that's good. Even though I do think Kyler might have a good matchup, I don't think they'll win that one. But yeah,
Yeah, they need it. Kyler needs to get that offense, actually
rolling a little
running.
bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they need to get it running like they're supposed to be doing, and it may take a couple weeks to do that. So I think it's warranted. I think it's, go with the hot hand right now
yeah,
and let Kyler kind of get that figured out a little bit more with his rookie, with his second year guy, and I think eventually they will get that thing rolling smooth. But uh, Baker looked great last week.
yeah, and hopefully it's not too late for them. uh, but Colts Packers are Fancy's doing it again, where he's. I'm assuming he's already just assuming that Jordan Love isn't playing, like, and that's
Correct. Yeah.
fair, like we talked about.
Yep.
So not a lot of people are going to favor them. I already saw the Colts are favored, and they're in Lambeau. So, um, we'll see what happens. But we all did take the Colts in that one, and then Fancy did go with Kyler and the Cardinals. OU boy, of course.
Oh,
He's
of
got
course.
a
That's why I picked him. Yep.
yeah. That's probably why I picked him. Yeah, that's why I was surprised he didn't go with Bucks. I really didn't. I'm surprised he did not go with Bucks. I really thought he would go Bucks here, just kind of despise you a little bit and and
Yeah.
and whatever. But who knows? Fancy likes to play those games of let's like I took the Cardinals, but I think the Rams are gonna win, and it's what I mean. He does the whole thing. So we kind of just gave our spiel there about Stafford and the Rams looked good last week. They are down Puka, but we made the waiver wire video this week. We have Colby Parkinson very high on our list. Obviously he's probably already picked up in your leagues if you guys are hearing this now. But I do think he's gonna be one of those guys where when Puka went out, I think he did get 3 or 4 targets right after that. So it's another one of those guys that he's gonna need. He's gonna need another guy to throw to. But I just think the Rams are more an established team going up into this matchup, like you just talked about how the Cardinals need to get things rolling, and it might take them a couple weeks to do that. So hopefully it's not too late before they start to get that ball rolling.
One thing was interesting out of the Rams game. I know we've talked about it before. Is I fully expect Blake Corum at some point in the season to get an opportunity.
Yeah,
Obviously, in week one, we didn't see that. I think we saw Ronnie Rivers in there
way more
um,
than I expected.
for a couple of those snaps that I thought maybe Blake Corum would get an opportunity at, but it was it was Kyron Williams show, just like it was at every opportunity
Yeah,
before as well. So that one's going to be interesting. I'm going to keep monitoring um, that usage as we kind of progress through this season, but it looks like it may not be first half of the season yet.
yeah. And I dropped them. And you messaged me as soon as I did it, and I dropped them in a few leagues. And I saw like if you drafted Blake Corum and you're dropping him after week one, you didn't draft him for the right reason. And I'm just like, I can't pass up on Justice Hill, who I'm very high on. I know I didn't put him in my top 5 waiver wire, but I mean, I think he was 18% of usage in the Ravens offense, which was Derrick Henry was 22 or 23. So it's like, yes, they're not going to use him in the run game a crazy amount, but they're not going to use Derrick Henry in the receiving game, and they run a lot of screens. And Justice Hill had like 6, 7 catches last week, so
Yeah,
When they
he's
can't get
he
that offense going, they're gonna dump it off to him a lot. His
yep,
over
third down back and,
Yeah,
hurry up
his
is
over
gonna be
his
him.
his catches was 1.5, and I wanted to take the over. In the first drive, he had 2 catches. So, I mean, I don't know what it's at this week, but it's like one of those things where it's one of those things again, like we said, we didn't know what these teams were gonna do week 1 in terms of um using their usage in terms of what they're gonna throw out there, who they're gonna use more, and all this stuff. And so
So
yeah.
so one piece of advice, I guess, off of what you just said, right, is just because you drafted a guy, just because you're thinking something's gonna happen going into the season, don't be afraid to pivot, right?
Yep.
If we kind of start to see different things, different opportunities, you need to be right as we kind of move through this season. So that's why, looking at Bucky, he's going to get those opportunities as
Yeah,
the
if
RB
anything ever
two.
happens to White, I think he turns into a top 10 back. I mean, he looked great.
Yep, yep.
9 carries, 62 yards. I mean, when you average over 6 carries, it's like,
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, don't be afraid. There's a
yeah.
lot of spots there on your bench too. Don't be afraid to pivot to what you think you have a better
Yep.
upside because you got to start winning some weeks.
Yeah, we've always said it. You draft your foundation and you win in the waivers. That's the truth. So you don't want to get rid of someone too early. We've all done it before, but you don't want to get rid of, or you don't want to like pick up someone that's whatever. So it's one of those things where week 1, if you still have them, you're wondering, oh, maybe I should have got rid of them. If you have the depth there, that's fine. But I'm in some bigger leagues, and the bench spots are thinning out, and when you lose week 1 and you're low on RB depth, it's like it ain't gonna come by all year long of running backs. So you got to kind of get them while they're there, and you just got to take the value that's there sometimes. And then we have the Steelers, Broncos. Fancy went with the Broncos. Me and you went with the Steelers. I think they're going to start Fields again, as what they said, which I think he deserves. I didn't think that that's the way it was going to happen. We did say it was Russell's job to lose, and I said if he
Right.
got hurt or whatever, we didn't think it'd be week 1. I don't think he wowed me in the week 1 performance, but at the same time, he didn't turn the football over, and I think that's okay with the Steelers. Like I think when you have a guy that can just go in there, get you some yards with his feet, or you got to watch that and then maybe dump off a couple catch, whatever it is. And when you got, I mean, TJ Watt, I don't know if you saw any of the game, but TJ Watt, I mean, somebody check on Kirk. Like, I mean, TJ Watt was lighting him up, dude. It was like every single play, TJ Watt, TJ Watt. It was just like it was insane to watch. Like he's an absolute beast. He got sniped last year on the defensive player of the year. I'll still stand by that. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I mean, look, Steelers start off 2-0, you know? Who
So
would who
Fields,
would who would thought though? Who would have thought though? The Steelers didn't have an offensive touchdown, right? They kicked 6 field goals or whatever it was, or
well, no, I was just looking at the. Oh no, that's
yeah, they had 18 points. They kicked 6 field goals, I'm pretty sure.
yeah. So 156, 14 carries for 57 yards.
Yeah.
So
So they didn't
not,
they didn't score a single touchdown
nothing crazy
offensively,
on offense, right?
and they're the only team with a win in the AFC North. Ravens, Bengals, and Browns all lost, and they all scored touchdowns. And the
Wow.
Steelers didn't
Okay.
score a touchdown, and they won. It might be one of the craziest stats of like all time. Um, so they're definitely need to score a touchdown, but I think they're going to give Bo Nix an absolute nightmare. Like if they gave that to Kirk Cousins and Kirk Cousins was lost, that's what I said, dude. People made fun of me
Right.
with the Steelers, but the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, man, for whatever reason, they're not going to outscore you. They're like the Iowa Hawkeyes of NFL. Like they are not going to outscore you at all, but they're going to like beat you down on defense and make sure that they get in field goal range every single drive. Like that's their goal. Um, and like with that, they start off 2-0. The next matchup that we got is Chiefs Bengals. The Chiefs looks 10 times better than the Bengals did. So
Right.
we just assume that the Bengals go 0-2 here. It's like now they're 0-2. We're thinking the Browns are
We
0-2.
got the
So we have
Browns 0-2.
Steelers 2-0, Ravens 1-1, and then everyone else 0-2. The Steelers at the
Where'd that
top.
where did that come from? Yeah.
Right. That's just something to think about. And I do think Sunday Night Football, it's going to be fun to watch kind of what everyone is saying the future of football in terms of Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud. It will be a fun game to watch. But with the way the Bears played last week, I mean, we would need one of the best rookie performances out of Field or not Fields, Caleb Williams to beat the
Right.
Texans. We saw how good Richardson and the Colts looked and even played against the Texans and shut down Stroud quite a bit and still fell short.
Yeah, you're
And
talking about the offensive.
doing it on the road is going to be pretty much impossible.
Yeah, you're talking about the offensive production out of the Steelers and Fields, but same is to be said about the Bears and Caleb Williams. Like
Yep.
you did not see, front runner rookie of the year, number 1 overall pick production out of Caleb Williams.
Yep.
So I don't think he's got a shot against the Texans, who, just as we predicted, found a way to have their studs get the ball and have high productivity. You saw Diggs, great game out of him. You saw Mixon doing great as well.
Nico had over 100 yards. Diggs just
And
got
then
all the touchdowns. And he only had
yep,
like 34 yards or something like that. So
yeah, and then so that's exactly what we thought, and they're I think they're going to continue to
I
just be
didn't
able
see
to.
it, but I was told that after the first drive, Diggs didn't get targeted and he threw a hissy fit on the sideline.
I'm sure
That's
he
seriously.
did.
That
I'm
was
sure
seriously.
he said. I'm
Yeah,
sure he said, "I'm
he was
open.
yelling.
Throw me
Yeah,
the ball."
yeah,
Yeah,
he was yelling at Shroud after the first drive. Someone was like, "This is ridiculous. One
but
drive, you didn't get the ball," and
it worked.
he's gonna have to get used to it though because Nico and Tank got all more targets and more yards than him. So he's not
Yeah,
gonna be satisfied with just touchdowns. There's no way.
true.
So it's gonna be something to watch. On terms of the Caleb Williams thing, I want to like steer it in a way of like totally off of what we're doing. But
Yeah, what you got?
when you look at it, Caleb Williams number one. You look at what he did, and then you look at what Justin Fields did. It's like you take Justin Fields' performance over Caleb. They could have gotten such a big haul. My prediction was they were going to trade down because they could have gotten 3 first-round picks. They could have gotten 1 more in that draft that could move down, and then 2 more in the next 2 years, which is
Well,
crazy value. Like,
and before you finish that thought, and then Rome Odunze getting hurt as well.
right.
So
And then I got so many text messages already from Bears fans. Bears should have upgraded the O-line even better. You had one of the most generational talent offensive linemen in the draft at Joe Alt, a freak. And you decided to go with a quarterback and a wide receiver when you didn't need them because you signed Keenan Allen. Now I got him. Oh, we shouldn't have signed Keenan Allen. We shouldn't have drafted Odunze. We should have just done one or the other. It's like I was telling you guys this the whole time, and all you guys kept talking about was, well, if we get Caleb Williams, he has all these guys to throw to. How is that 94 yards or 93 yards looking there? You know what I mean? You have all these guys that you're paying, all these guys that you're doing, and it's like I don't know if you got to see any footage, but Joe Alt was insane. Like I don't think offensive linemen get enough credit. He didn't allow a single pressure in his debut, and you know who he was matched up against? Max Crosby.
that's impressive.
That is insane.
Yeah,
He
that
was
is
literally owning Max Crosby the first game of the season. There's pictures of Justin Herbert sitting in the pocket, and everyone is like 5 yards away from him. Like that is what you want. Now they didn't
Yeah.
get a flashy win, and Herbert didn't have 400 yards. But with Harbaugh, you don't need to win that way. We saw that with Michigan. They will run the ball down your throat. Shout out to J.K. Dobbins. I did pick him up. I drafted him in a league, and he's great. I'm starting him this week,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. Defensively, they looked great. They looked disciplined. Offensive line, they looked disciplined. I'm upset that the Bears got rid of somebody that wasn't the problem. They could have easily either signed Keenan or drafted Rome Odunze, which to me, I think you just sign Keenan. You get another veteran in there for Justin, and then
Yep.
you get more draft capital, and then you draft Joe Alt. Like and then you have a guy that's going to be with your quarterback for the next 15 years. Like a stud. Like I mean, we saw it with you guys.
Yeah.
You guys picked Penny Sewell or whatever his name is, right?
Penny Sewell, yep.
So, but when you guys did that, everyone was like, "Dude, they need more. They need this. They need." It's like, well, we understand that, but if you don't fix the foundation, you can. And the Bears are like living proof of this. If you don't fix the foundation, you can get DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, all these guys, and still throw for 90 yards. Like that's what I'm trying to get people to understand is you need to have an offensive line. Like,
And I'll compare it to, when we made the trade and we got all these draft capital, and all the pieces we're putting together now. Think about what we're thinking, that Ryan Poles is just this genius with all these picks and these moves and stuff like that, and he can make these moves. But right now, it does not look good. Right now, Brett Holmes looks like a genius for all the draft capital that he acquired and moves that he made. It doesn't look good. It's week 1. It does not look good with the decisions that he's made with what could have been huge draft capital, all those picks he could have acquired,
Yeah.
all those moves he could have made, and he didn't by just sitting at one and picking,
Yeah.
what he thought was the
'Cause like we said, it
easiest
was one of
pick of
those
his
things where
life.
you pick them and no one you keep your job for another year. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if Caleb Williams would have been drafted by whoever traded up, whether it was the Vikings or whoever, that wanted him or Commanders, whatever, and he lit it up, everyone would be like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get it, but I just yeah. So that's one thing that stuck out for me. I saw the Joel like just dominating Max Crosby, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. And then the Eagles Falcons,
Battle of the
obviously
Birds.
Battle of the Birds. And as two Eagles fans talking about this game, um,
And two Lions fans.
uh, I just in Philly, excuse me, in Philly, the Falcons looked bad last week. I saw
I
a
was
lot
gonna
of
I was
footage.
gonna
I
a I
saw
was
a
gonna
lot of
ask you.
footage. I saw a lot of footage. Kirk Cousins does not plant that back foot. His Achilles that he tore. He's not. There's no pressure on it. There's none. Like you can see all the throws when he's throwing.
So
His
playing
his
scared,
it's
huh?
not even planted. It's not even all the way planted. He's just on his tippy toe on his back, and so he's got no power. That's why he's diving footballs into the ground about 15, 20 yards out. Like so, I think we're gonna see Michael Penix this year. I think we really will at some
I
point.
I I told you that
Um,
that might be an opportunity at the end of the year, yeah,
yeah,
but
we saw
we
it. Someone predicted saying it was gonna be the next like Alex Smith Mahomes thing. Is they drafted him and they drafted him a little. They drafted him kind of in that same spot that Mahomes was drafted, where they're like, what are they doing? They have Alex Smith, and what are they doing? They have Kirk Cousins, and it was kind of just like maybe they know something that we don't know of like Kirk Cousins doesn't look that good right now, like.
I
So
I don't know. I mean, obviously it's only week 1 again, like we talked about, but you're right. It did not look good at all
yeah,
for the Falcons, and
yeah,
it would be interesting to see if he has another down week because he's gonna have a down week in the sense that Eagles look really good. I mean, everybody had to play on that same field. Them and the Packers of slipping around a little bit. So maybe we could have seen even more offensive productivity out of them, but
yeah,
um, I think the Eagles, now that I'm a AJ Brown, just Jalen Hurts fan, I think they're going to be off. This is going to be an offensive minded game. I know you're saying the defensive side is kind of sneaky in there, but I really think that the Eagles just run away with
yeah.
offense against the
I don't think the
Falcons.
Falcons offense is ready to go to keep up with the Eagles. Um, and I mean, we'll see. If the Falcons have to look better, if they can start off 0-2, and it's okay because they're in a very weak division. Um, but if they look as bad as they did last week, it's starting to you got to hit the alarm here soon. Like it's like you really gotta start maybe peeking at Michael Penix there. But that is our picks. So you can follow me and Matt the whole time and see what we go. I mean, what did we say, Matt? You went
12-4.
12-4. I went 11-5. So that's what me and him went. We're going together now, so it should be very similar to those numbers. Hoping for like a 13-3, Matt. What do you think? Like
I
13-3?
like this slate. I'm telling you, there's not too many games that I really had to
Yeah.
waver on. So yeah, I mean, I could see
The only one is like tonight. Tonight can go both ways,
this
maybe
is
for
this
me.
50-50 for sure.
And
Yep.
the Browns and the Rams game and the Lions game were like the 4-5 for me that were like, maybe we'll see.
Yep.
So,
Well, it would
but
be cool. It would be cool to see the Packers, still be able to
play with Malik Willis.
play with Malik
There's
Willis.
there's a reason that they traded for him.
Yep.
And that brings us to our DK segments. Last week, of course, I told you guys last week, there's winners and there's losers, and I won a lot of them last week or last year. uh, Obviously, Fancy. It's a crazy stat though. Fancy has never gotten third. That's crazy to think about. Like me and
Yeah.
you have gotten third. I've gotten the most firsts, obviously, but he's constantly in like that's some weeks that 122.68 is going to be enough to win. Like we talked about, like
Yeah.
almost every single one of his things is 10 points, and sometimes that's enough. If he would have just done Jaden Reed instead of Dobbs or Jaden Reed instead of Watson,
Oh,
whatever,
that would have been
he would
huge.
just
Yep.
picked one more receiver on that team the right way. But with mine, Jaden Daniels exceeded everything that I thought he was going to do. I knew Tampa didn't have that great of a defense, and I mean he did very very good for me. Stevenson, I did way better than I thought. It was kind of just one of those budget ones where it's an RB1, but I did not expect him to do that great.
Yep.
Ford did a lot better than I thought as well. DJ Moore was the one that I spent the most money on, and he let me down. And then Godwin really just came out of nowhere, but I knew that it was someone that Baker's very familiar with and very confident in. And then James Conner, who I've been very high on all off season. I think he's gonna have a great year as long as he stays healthy. Obviously, those were the ones that helped me win. Kincaid and McLaurin really hurt me, and then the Chiefs defense was okay. But Fancy with the J.K. Dobbins pickup. He also had Evans, which if you had Evans or Godwin this week, it was a win. The Pollard pick was a great pickup by him as well. And then honestly, one of the picks of the weeks for me was the Bears defense by you. Besides I don't know, I feel like out of all of them, not even being biased, the Jaden Daniels and Stevenson were snags in terms of the price that I got them at. But I mean the Bears, and then you put all that money to AJ Brown, and he obviously
Right.
paid
Yeah.
out what you paid him to do. You
Yeah.
8K or 8,200, whatever it is. It's like that's what you need, or even more. You know what I mean?
I
So
feel it was like 8,700. Yeah. So like, I mean, that's how a lot of times that's how, like I told you, that's my strategy is I find my piece, who I really think has, even if it's a high price guy who I really think is going to ball out. So I started with paying as much money as possible on my wide receiver who I thought was going to do great. And then I kind of work backwards. So, I really had high expectations. It's hilarious. You see Gibbs, you see, trying to think who else you see, like 17.4, and it
yep.
says that it
Well,
wasn't
like Mike Evans and like what was Pollard expected? What was
right.
Jerome Ford? What was James Conner expected?
That's what
Like,
I'm saying. So, that's kind of interesting, but
we still haven't figured that out. We got to figure that out this year. I don't know what it is, but we gotta.
how much above, how much above
It's
your
gotta be maybe
standard.
above what they thought the price range. It's gotta be something to do. By the way, AJ Brown was 8K for you last week. Yep, 8K,
Gotcha. Okay.
8K on the dot.
So, I
But you
really,
had the second cheapest defense and
yeah,
3,400 for.
I know how, yeah, that
I had
was
3K on the Chiefs. I knew they were playing the Ravens. I was just hoping for maybe like it was raining. You know what I mean? I almost got lucky. It was really raining at first, and those games, those Thursday night games, the home openers and everything like that, it can start off real slow. So that's what I was kind of just banking on.
what really let me down is Deontay Johnson and the Panthers. I really thought they were going to actually be a little bit more competitive because it's against the Saints. I really thought they were going to be
Saints
competitive
defense is gonna
there.
be sneaky, man. They're gonna be sneaky this year.
And then, I'm still calling my shot. I still think Ingram is a top 3
Oh yeah.
as season goes through, but 1.5 points is not going to get it done. Same thing with Andrews. We saw the productivity out of Likely
My
instead of
brother
Andrews.
my brother in a $350 league drafted Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews back to back, like at a turnaround. And he just threw like I think like $38, just 38% of his fab at Likely. But now he's in the situation of like he texted me, he's like, "Who do I start this week?" I'm
What
like,
do I do? Yeah.
I personally think you just start Likely until he proves otherwise. I don't think you start both. And I think
Because yet you
till then,
are
and
is Andrews somehow dealing with something we don't know about
that's
coming
what
off of his
they used him
injury?
as a left tackle but last week pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. That's a scary position to be in. But hey, I did absolutely awful. 97 is not going to cut it. Hopefully
At
this
least
week.
both of you guys were literally 0.01 off of a 69. Like at least you put up a 69 or something for us. Like at least,
All right, I'll do better. I'll do better.
All right. And then we have this week's. I stay with Jaden Daniels. I liked it.
Yep.
Giants defense. I don't know what I got him for last week, but so he was 5,700 last week, 6,200 this week.
Yep.
So
So they're pricing
feel,
out.
yeah, I don't feel like you know that's a bad grab at all.
I will tell you. I again might as well keep trying, especially against the Giants. They did come out and say maybe we shouldn't let him run the ball that much.
Yeah.
Let's try to get the running backs involved a little bit more. Let's see if they. I mean, but again, if he feels that pressure and if he's got the opportunity, it might not be a designed run this time, right? But he still might break free and show the athleticism. So I still think he gets those rush yards, just maybe not the specific usage of, calling his number right away, I still think he can get it done on the ground too.
Yeah. Both of you guys went with Zach Ertz, which is shocking.
But it's
Um,
it's the matchup.
yeah. So other than that, we another week goes by where we did you guys both pick Henry and I did not.
Should have.
Fancy didn't go Dobbins, me and you went Dobbins. So we'll see. I went Godwin again. I went Terry again because there's no way. I like the Daniels Terry matchup. Eventually, he's gonna have to start clicking with him, like you said. If he's gonna start, scrambling less, maybe he just starts chucking the ball up to Terry a little bit more. I did go with Likely. I like the price. I thought maybe all of you guys were gonna do that too. If I'm being honest, at that price, I really did like it. And then I kind of went cheaper all the way through it, like I said again. And then at the end of it, I clicked the flex and I had 7,200. I still had $100 extra. And I was like, well, Joe Mixon had 3 touchdowns last week or something like that, didn't he? Or 2 or 3 or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
so I was like, why not? And Dolphins defense tonight on a Thursday night, kept the Jaguars to 17. So we'll see what they can do against Buffalo. It was kind of just one of those cheap options that I'm high on picking a cheap defense and then stacking up the rest because if they can get you 5-6 points, it's like whatever, as long as you're getting better value out of something else. Yeah, that's what I got from my team. So
I'm looking at Baker. We talked about it before. I think that's going to be a shootout.
you know,
I think
Baker, that's like a fancy move. Like if he does good, then you win because you got him in this. But if he does bad, then you win because you're a Lions fan.
exactly.
Like
So great pick right there. I'm gonna try to go with Derrick Henry as much as possible. I think that's gonna be the consistency eventually. But we saw Lamar run the shit out of the ball too.
Yeah.
So
That's
he
gotta be
might.
one of those conversations with Daniels too, though, where like, hey, let's not do that when we have Derrick Henry there. Let's just give him the ball. Like,
Oh, and I will say that was, I don't know if you saw it when they were pointing it out. Jaden Daniels apparently does not like to actually do the snap of his chin
his
strap.
helmet kept falling off.
And I saw it. It's because he literally he didn't pull it tight. He didn't have his chin strap on. So that's why it kept coming off. So I don't
He
know
lost a
what.
rushing touchdown because of that.
Yeah. And then
He
he
went
put
in
it
there
back.
and they didn't even hit him that hard. He just went backwards, and when he hit someone else's helmet, like not even that hard, it literally just popped off. Like it wasn't even like a hit. It kind of just hit someone and popped off.
I swear he's like chewing gum or something while he's playing, and so he doesn't like the chin strap on there. I don't know what it is, but
yeah, it's crazy because they took a rushing touchdown away from us. We just saw the numbers they put up. It's like that was one more rushing touchdown if he just didn't do that.
Yep.
Like,
and then I was looking at your lineup and then saying, well, you're kind of going back to the well on a couple of guys who did great last week. Can they do it again? And then I kind of did the same thing. I went with AJ Brown, thinking he's going to ball out again. J.K. Dobbins, who you picked too, who I think is going to get it done again, especially against Carolina. Again, when you look at some of these matchups, that's kind of how you think.
Yep. I took 2 workhorses with Dobbins and Montgomery. Yep. I'm just like, these guys might get 15 carries. Like, yep. I'm good.
Like, and then I wanna say some of these rookies are going to get their opportunities. Malik Neighbors is the guy that I think out of these receivers that has the best chance right now, especially after week 1 of what we saw. Marvin Harrison Jr., Ramadunze potentially being hurt. I really think Malik Neighbors, and again, it's Giants versus Redskins, so I think he's got an opportunity.
Redskins?
Commanders. Sorry. Thank you.
Fancy would have had a ball with that one.
Yep. Cleveland Indians, not Cleveland Guardians. But that matchup, Daniel Jones has gotta be able to throw. Is he throwing left-handed? Was he throwing left-handed last game or something? Or
well, that's why I was
gonna
throw into it. But if we have any Giants fan listeners, I didn't want to make them depressed. Was literally Barkley has more touchdowns with the Eagles than Daniel Jones has as a quarterback with the Giants since signing his $160 million contract or $240 million, whatever the hell it was. So that's crazy. He's thrown more pick sixes than touchdowns.
So hopefully he gets
$40 million a year.
Hopefully he gets that turned around, and I'm going to say Malik Neighbors is going to be the benefactor of that. And then I told you Ingram, I'm just going to keep throwing him in, hoping because he's in my fantasy.
I think you went double tight end last week too. You did. You went Ingram, Andrews last week, and then Ingram, Ertz this week.
And I don't know if it's just it's because I'm spending up.
You're spending so much on Henry and AJ.
Yeah, I think I'm running out of money by the time I get down to that flex spot. So,
So what I like to do, maybe I shouldn't even like give this advice, is I like to start with defense, then I pick a tight end, and then I
okay,
pick a quarterback. And then the rest I kinda just I because it'll tell you how much average you have left, and then I usually go to that margin, and then I look under that margin of who do I actually like in this, and if I
okay,
don't, then I go back up in that position or whatever. But sometimes
okay.
I find guys like I like Jaden Reed at 6K. I like Terry at 5,700. Like to me, and then likely at 4,800 was a steal. I thought he was gonna be like 6, 7K this week because like he just popped off so much, but they
Right.
just expect him to go back to number 2, I guess.
All right, so maybe next week if I do just as bad like most weeks, maybe I'll switch this up. But that's that's my mindset when I walk through this, and to me, it's like a lottery hit. When I do well, I do really well. But
Yeah, it's almost like every guy puts up 20 plus, it's
yeah,
like
but unfortunately, if that's not consistent week to week, I'm gonna do what I did last year and finish third most weeks. So we'll see how this week goes, and then
yep.
maybe I'll have to start listening to you and actually try to put up some average with high upside instead of the lotto picks.
Yep. And then, like I said last week, we did do a 3-leg parlay last week. Like I said earlier, we did Derrick Henry touchdown, which cashed us on the first drive. Man, that was a huge
Yes, sir.
one. That was awesome. Fancy took -$3, and I took Dalton Kincaid. Dalton Kincaid is the one that let us down. It was $25 to win 150. This week is even higher odds. Last week was plus 505. This week is plus 570. $25 to win 167 and 62 cents. I took Commanders -2. I'm gonna stay away from player props until I hit something with you guys. Fancy, since he's a Cowboys fan, went with CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown, and Matt went with Amon-Ra St. Brown anytime touchdown. Definitely think those two guys. I don't think CD got in last week. I could be wrong. I don't think he did. I think he just had like a 5 catches, 50 yards type of game.
Yep.
It wasn't anything crazy. So I do think those guys are like almost due, where like they're kind of just like too good not to score, and so if they don't do it week 1, they're gonna do it week 2. Um, and like we talked about, they didn't use St. Brown that much last week, so I think I think you're gonna see him. I think he's gonna get 10 plus catches. Like you're gonna see him just get targeted and
Yep.
targeted and targeted, and he's gonna do great. So
He's too good of a player to not be in the game plan.
yep,
So I feel like at practice all week is finding a way. He's got the confidence, which it's not like a Diggs where he's got no confidence. If he's not getting the ball and everything like that. So I think he's gonna get, and again, if we think it's gonna be a shootout, then it's gonna get to one of your best players. So
yep.
that's why I think he's gonna score here.
Yep. So let us know if you guys are gonna tell us in that. We have one more thing for you guys. Trivia with Matt. I'll do my best. I don't have my pal Fancy to to help me out here. So we'll see what kind of trivia question Matt has for us.
All
All right.
right.
We can't go to the other screen here because we have the. I guess maybe we can, technically.
Oh, there we
Maybe
go. No,
put you.
let's
No,
see if
yeah, I
we
can't
can.
put you there. So it'll be like this. It'll be a little bit different trivia this time.
Sounds good. All right, trivia time here. You kind of alluded to it, and I now that I think about it, I should have gone. I like your question a little bit better. Maybe next week. You talked about when you start off 0-2, your season might be in shambles, right? What about just starting 1-0 or 0-1, right? What does that do to your playoff picture? So, what I did find, I found a really interesting like thesis from Purdue University talking about probability numbers when you win week 1 um, and win and get making the playoffs, and if you lose that first game, now what happens to your odds? So we can it's kind of a twofer, but the original question that I kind of want you to think about for teams that won week 1, what's the probability of them making the playoffs now? So you get that first week in, that first win. What does it do to your odds versus on the flip side, if you lost that first one, what does it do to your odds making the playoff as well?
I don't know why 58% sounds good to me.
So if you win week 1, you think it's 58. What about
58%, so you would have 42% chance of not making playoffs if you went 0-1.
Okay. So that's the interesting side of statistics, right? So the guys at Purdue University threw this together. 53, and this is like literally using some of the data
Yeah.
from the team from what happened too, right? 53.27% after winning the first one. And if you lose, it's down to 23.95. So that first week is that important in your opportunities for making the playoffs.
Wow. So I was kind of close in the win in
Yeah,
the.
you had the right kind
You know
of
what's crazy though? No, I'm not
bracket.
even lying. I was between 54 and 58, but I was like, I knew if you win week 1, it shoots it up. So I didn't want to go too low on like the closer to that 50% margin because obviously it should be higher. So
Yep.
that is crazy stat though.
But
So it almost is.
that's how important that week 1
Well,
is.
and it's like it's so tricky because sometimes when we're sitting here talking about it and we're sitting there like, oh, you're this or you're 1-0 or you're like we talking about the Bengals 0-2. It's like, what does 0-2 put you at that? You just said 20 whatever percent. It's like, what does 0-2 put you at now? You know what I mean? And
Right. Yeah.
especially in the number one division, probably in football in terms of competitiveness, besides maybe the AFC West or the NFC West. But it's like you are not in an easy division where you can go 0-2 with that much talent. So the Bengals kind of need to beat the Chiefs this week. They kind of have to. Same
Yeah.
thing with the Packers. They kind of have to beat the Colts. Otherwise, their playoff chances just keep dwindling down.
Yep.
One thing that I wanted to mention before we get out of here, I wish Fancy was here because he's a big fan of these. I told you before we started, there was another scoregami this week. And it was the Monday Night Football game. The Jets,
Wow.
San
Okay.
Francisco 49ers. The Jets 19, the 49ers 32 was the final. It was the 1,085th unique final score in NFL history. So
That's
we got a
insane to think about.
scoregami week 1.
Yeah.
So shout out to Fancy. What did he call it? Do you even remember? I know I'm calling you out on the spot though. What did he call it?
Scoregasm?
No, he didn't. He said something crazy though. It was some fancyism though, where
Right.
he was trying to describe a scoregami to us, and he said something like something crazy. But that's all we got for you guys. So hopefully, we're perfect. Hopefully we go six. We have still not seen a 16-0 week. So that's kind of the goal. And with me and you
Yep.
combined, I would really love to see it, but we know how that works. We know how that goes. It's very hard to do, especially because a lot of teams we're picking are the favorites anyways. So it's very uncommon because things happen in sports. But
I
let us
you
know
know,
if you guys. What's that?
I was gonna say I gave you the numbers. I don't remember what they were. Again, we only started week 8 of
Yeah,
last
it was like
season.
week 9, week 8, or something like that.
But
Yeah,
but I feel like our numbers were above average. We were in the 60 to 70%
yep,
range on our totals. So I mean, that's as consistent as you need to be. Obviously, great start to our weeks of 11-5, 12-4 out of me and you. So if we can keep those numbers rolling, I mean that's competitive with anybody else.
yeah, exactly. So both of us having the same picks. You have to let us know down in the comments what your guys' picks are. Um, and then let us know if you guys are gonna tail on the parlay. Let us know if you tailed last week too. You guys can call me some names in the comments if needed. I deserve it. I
You
failed.
better.
I came up short. I did come through with the DK though. I did come through with the picks at 11-5, which to me, I'll take 11-5 each week if I could. So yeah, let us know down in the comments. Make sure you guys are following us on our TikTok. And make sure you're subbed to the channel because we do post a lot more this season than we did last season. We're kind of all in this year. Um, we got the schedules out. We got the waiver wire pickup advice out. We have all kinds of stuff out like that. So make sure you guys are subbed to us here and are following us on TikTok. So you got anything else, Matt?
Yeah, I'd say, just kind of like what you're saying. We love the suggestions. If you do have some about, what stats do you like to see us post about week to week?
Yep.
What type of things can we put together to be your source of information if we can, right? So if you saw our post this week, we threw together top 5 running backs, quarterbacks, tight ends, and wide receivers. Anything else you guys can think of, throw it in the comments. Let's try to put that together for you.
Yeah, exactly. And also, if you are listening and you do listen every week, you know, if some suggestion of can we go longer? Would you guys like the podcast to be longer? Because we can definitely make it longer. There's some things that we definitely cut each week just because we're trying to keep this about an hour 15, maybe less. Last week I think was 50 something. This week we just hit an hour. But if you want them longer or shorter, whatever works for you guys, we'd love to hear suggestions for sure. And we just appreciate you guys tuning in and giving us your time. So that's all we got for you this week. Let's hope me and Matt go 16-0 and go Eagles.
Go Lions.
Later.